second episode of the week, Top 5 Basement Scenes. That's Anderson. I'm Brian Bishop. We're your hosts for the aforementioned Top 5 Basement Scenes. Where does this come to us from, Anderson?
Well, Brian, as I mentioned to you on the last episode, from one Mitch Tobias. Mitch Tobias has been with us for a while now, and he has a very funny story. I can't remember if I told it the first time that he chose a topic for us, but he was, I don't know, maybe he doesn't like, he lives in Germany. He was on a train living a nice existence at the time on his way to Paris for the third time that month, just for kicks. And he heard one of our Patreon listeners' job and place in life, and he's like, I am an a-hole for not having given anything to this program when I listen to it as much as I do. So he's a teacher. It's not like he's some kind of like highfalutin guy. He's a teacher, but he's a teacher in Germany. So wages are differently. They actually pay for your housing if you're a teacher in Germany. It's a whole different ballgame over there. But he had an epiphany on that train on his way to Paris many months ago, and ever since then, he's been at our decider level, which is very, very appreciated. And I spoke with him for quite a bit just this morning, talking basement scenes, teaching, Germany, sign language. We had a very good conversation. I was while I was giving Atticus a bath, so I was kind of.
Is the man in Germany?
Yeah, he's in Germany. So, but it's so weird with technology, you know. I FaceTime audioed him just the way that I'm doing with you. I had my earpiece in. I got both hands washing Atticus's hair, talking to Mitch in Germany, and it's like he was right down the street. You know what I mean? Like he could have been next door. It was like there's no delay. It's crazy.
It's amazing where we are.
It really is. But thanks, Mitch, for a very fruitful topic, as Brian mentioned earlier.
I did. There's a cornucopia of great basement scenes out there. I had to leave off. I'm looking at a list of another maybe 8 or 10 of words I feel strongly about, and I would have loved to have put on my list. This is a fruitful.
Yeah, I actually decided not to even look up some funny basement scenes that I know exist. I didn't even do the research and watch the video because I'm thinking maybe we can do a comedic basement scenes later. Because whenever you think basement scenes, usually first and foremost, you think creepy, you think scary, you think horror. And That's where all 5 of mine land. I think that most all of yours do too. And just a brief back and forth we had earlier in the week. So I think that there's room to do a comedic basement scenes either next week or later down the road, because it's a whole different ball of wax.
I wish you told me that so I could leave off a couple. That said, I'm all for doing maybe a sequel or follow-up, possibly even Patreon edition to do part 2.
A lot of things happen in basements, Brian.
Mine, if we did another version of this, mine would not all be comedic. They would be another batch of excellent basement scenes.
All right.
Batch.
All right. I don't know if we should be so forthcoming, but I don't know why and for what reason, but you really wanted to share a list this week before we got going. I think because you didn't want to have any crossover, which I appreciate, but you didn't have any comedies on there. So I don't know where these came from, Brian.
Well, not comedy, but one of mine is certainly, you'll agree with me when we get to it. One of mine certainly played for comedic effect.
All right.
Effect.
All right.
That said, hey, Christopher Plummer died this week.
Yes, he did. Too soon.
He's taken from us, Rob.
Who's going to take over for Kevin Spacey now? That's my question.
I guess it'll have to be. Who's the other guy? Who's from The Exorcist? Who they always confuse him with?
Von Sydow. He's dead too, though.
Max von Sydow. Max von Sydow died?
Yeah, didn't he die like a year ago?
Oh, sad. Maybe he did. Maybe I'm being extremely flippant. Yeah, he was. Yeah,
You're tone deaf, Brian. You're tone deaf to his life. Sad. His life does not appreciate your tone deafliness.
How about top 5 Max von Sydow / Christopher Plummer performances?
Langella is going to have to be the guy, right? Frank Langella?
Yeah, or Langella, yeah, Robot and Frank.
Yeah. Or you know what Frank Langella is always going to be remembered by me for? Ruining the end of the Chicago 7. Order!
That's up for Best Picture.
I'll have order!
That's up for Best Picture.
Goddamn absurd.
Golden Globes.
Of course it is. It'll be up for Best Picture with the Oscars, too. Because you know why? I watched that movie. I like some of it, but I watched the whole thing with my mom. She didn't like it till the very last scene. She watches CSI LA.
And she liked the last scene?
She thought it was great. She actually voiced her opinion, which was,
No.
I didn't like the movie much, but that last scene was great. And I'm like, hey, Mom, I come from the fruit of your groin.
Is Christopher Lee still alive? 'Cause
That's
he could probably
horrible.
pull that off, too.
Why would I have said that?
Why would you have said
I don't like saying that about my own mother. We're not that show. Yeah, Lee's still alive. Lee's still alive. Let it go. What about Charlie Dancer? He could be the new guy.
Wow.
What?
No, Christopher Lee's dead, you son of a bitch.
Huh? Who was?
He died in 2015.
Who? Lee?
Christopher Lee.
Must have been thinking of another Chris Lee. Hey, Charlie Dancer.
Another vampire.
Yeah. Charlie Dancer?
Charles Dancer?
Charles Dancer. Yeah.
Charles.
We know he's alive. We just saw him in Mank yesterday. Stop it. Charles, it's just Charles Dance. God damn, I'm done. It's just Dance.
Charles Dance.
Son of a bitch. See, guys, I have a problem with names, all right? It's a problem. It's a real problem. Charles Dance.
He actually has it. He has passed.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Apparently, it was an hour ago. It was just devastating.
You remember that Miracles sketch that they did on SNL?
Wait, what? I thought that was the Insane Clown Posse.
Yeah, it was supposed to be the Insane Clown Posse doing their song Miracles. Magnets, how do they work? I forget what his fake name
But
was.
that's the real song, isn't it?
Yeah, but they did an alternate version of it.
Oh, okay.
And-
like the magnets part is definitely something I remember from the music video.
And Tommy Monahan was playing
Bobby Moynihan.
Bobby. Yeah, Bobby Monahan was playing oh my God, Violent J. But it was a version of Violent J, and he's like, ha ha, ha ha. He's like, I'm gonna live forever, and then it just freeze frames on his face, turns black and white, and it says R.I.P. and it has that like. It was so good. It was so fucking good. Almost as good as this week's listener art. Gotta tell you.
Oh, the listener art
stuff.
is strong.
Good stuff. All right, so thanks to Mitch Tobias for bringing us such a solid list and a solid conversation to me this morning. And it is time now to do a little top fiveys. You ready?
You want me to go first? I have a strong list.
My list is pretty strong. Pretty strong. I like my list. Oh, I should also say this. I don't know how I feel about this, but I'm going to be 100% honest because I don't know how not to be. I stole one of Mitch's picks. How do you feel about that?
Wow. I appreciate the honesty, but you're a scumbag.
I went back and forth in my head since talking to Mitch, and I'm like, okay, here's my conundrum. All right, here I'm conflicted, Brian, because I didn't think of it on my own, didn't find it in my research. My number 5 pick, I did, put it high on a little lower on the list, but I got it from Mitch. But all that being said, I still think it's deserving of being on my list. So what do I do? Do I keep it off the list? Because
it's not as though it didn't exist before. Yes, you can put it on your list.
it should be on the list, right? Even though
It depends on what it is.
Well, you know what? The real shitty thing to do would be just put it on my list and then look at Mitch's list and go, look at that, he's got it too. Play dumb.
Oh, yeah, well, what a coincidence.
So that's not happening. All right, number 5 for me. While we're talking about it, I'm talking about a scene that involves not one arm but 2 arms being bitten in a basement in a movie called The Killing of a Sacred Deer. 2017's The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
God, I remember this at all.
Lanthimos put together quite a shocking little movie for you. Hard to watch at times. Sticks with you. And yeah, it's funny that you say that you don't remember it, because in most movies it would stand out as a very, very memorable scene, but there's so many things going on in this movie that stand out that this one kind of gets lost in the weeds, and that's why I didn't think of it off the top of my head either. I should also say I really enjoyed this list because it's the first list we've had in a few weeks where I really relied on my own memory rather than heavy research. And it's always nice. That's always a sign of a really good topic, I think, is if you just start going through the Rolodex in your head rather than like, oh, what are the movies that are played by a guy named Mike? You know what I mean?
I guess.
You don't get it? You don't know what I'm saying?
Sorry, I missed the last 30
I just
seconds.
caught Brian not listening.
You really did. I was trying to read the Wikipedia description. Like, what happens in the basement?
Yeah.
Sorry, tell me about Mike again.
That's all right. I was just saying that this is a solid list because I relied mainly on my own memory rather than heavy research, and I think that's always a sign of a good list, a sign of a good solid topic, I should say.
The sign of how good this topic was, I thought of a good, robust 5 on my own, like you said, out of memory. And then as I'm looking, I'm searching YouTube for basement scene. I'm like, that's a great scene. That's a great scene too. Like my list kept swelling.
Yeah. A lot out there. Now, the killing of a sacred deer deserves to be number 5 on my list because it's what actually happens with the arms rather than the place that it takes place.
Oh.
I almost had another one that probably deserves to be on the list just as much, but I left it off. We'll talk about that more later. Maybe it'll be on your list. It's on my also ran, but it's a comedy that it's a horror film that you and I both love that got bumped. But the killing of a sacred deer, I just want to talk more about that movie because for the people that like the killing of a sacred deer, you love it, and for those of you who it's not your cup of tea, I'm sorry. You give it a couple scenes and you'll get the gist. I think.
Right.
Lanthimos.
God, I barely remember. I gotta go back and watch this.
It's on Netflix. You can actually watch the scene was not readily available on YouTube. I did find it on the actual movie in Netflix, and I watched it all the way through. It's an eye for an eye type scene. Like the Kehoe character is trying to. The whole story of killing of a sacred deer is insane, and it's hard to even talk about because it takes about 25 minutes before you realize the stakes. But essentially, a guy played by Colin Farrell is Colin Farrell is he's a surgeon, and he's left with the choice. He has to pick a family member. He's got a wife and 2 kids, and he has to pick a family member to sacrifice.
It's a revenge film, yes?
It's revenge is in there, but also it kind of puts you in this place where, like, what would you do? Like, how, it goes back to that, like, where parents always say that they love their kids equally, and it goes back to Sophie's Choice, right?
I don't love any one of my children more than the other.
Oh my God, was this not on my list for top 5 choices? It better have been on my list.
Top 5 Sophie's Choices.
Killing of a sacred deer, the choice. Remember how he decides to choose?
No, what? How does he decide?
You don't remember this movie?
I don't.
I don't want to talk.
It, obviously, I remember how weird and creepy the kid was.
He was so good. I don't want to talk about what happens at the end of the movie, Brian, but it's comical. It's the whole thing is comical. You really got to have a dark sense of humor to enjoy this one. But Barry Keegan, it plays the kid. Nicole Kidman's also in here. We were talking about this movie, Mitch and I, this morning, and he was talking about how she plays a disinterested wife like nobody else can. And I said, well, she had like years of experience, I think.
It's true. She's probably pulling from inspiration in her own life.
Nicole Kidman, yeah. The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I highly recommend Yorgos Lanthimos. He constructs these scenarios that don't exist in our real world, but you buy them if you let yourself.
That is true. That is true.
Yes.
All right, number 5 for me is a surprisingly dark scene, Anderson, as many basement scenes are, but this one surprisingly dark, literally and figuratively, because it comes from a man named Steven Spielberg.
Spiely.
I'm talking about War of the Worlds. 2005, Spielberg's War of the Worlds. This is the Tom Cruise versus Tim Robbins scene. So super creepy Tim Robbins. It's implied by the filmmaker that he may be a pedophile at one point. So obviously Tom Cruise and his daughter Dakota Johnson. Is it Dakota Johnson or Dakota Fanning?
Do your research, bro.
It's Dakota Fanning, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be Dakota Fanning. Why did I write that? Dakota Johnson. That's the fucking bitch from 50 Shades. God damn it.
Oh, yeah, it's not her.
Tom Cruise and his daughter are seeking shelter in the basement of an abandoned house. The aliens, they're searching for him, and there's a 10-minute perfect Spielberg scene, signature Spielberg scene. They're playing cat and mouse with the aliens who are going through all the things in the basement, and Tim Robbins has a gun, and Tom Cruise is trying to silently tell him, no, don't fucking shoot, because the aliens will hear you and they'll be flooded and killed quite instantly. Tim Robbins is insane. It's implied that he may be a pedophile. At one point, he's sitting with Tom Cruise's daughter, Dakota, something, and saying like, "Oh, hey, if something happens to your daddy, don't worry, I'll take care of you." And it's a little bit of a manic energy. You don't really trust the guy. I think he might be I think the direction from Spielberg might have been, hey, remember Mystic River you did 2 years ago? Do that character. You're just that guy again. You're playing the same exact character. Now you're just in a basement. Same accent, same everything. So you get this great white knuckle cat and mouse sequence where the trios, they're hiding under a basement in a basement from the aliens. It's great. But then you get this kind of dark for Spielberg moment where Tom Cruise realizes our interests are not aligned and Tim Robbins is losing his fucking mind and he's going to get us all killed. So I'm going to put a blindfold over my daughter's eyes and have her sing a lullaby to herself while I lock myself in this room in the basement with Tim Robbins, and we're going to fight to the death. And one of us will emerge and the other one will be dead.
It is solid. It is very solid.
It's a solid scene. Yeah. It's also... like, I think you'll agree for Spielberg standards, it's fairly dark.
It is exceptionally dark for Spieley, and it's good. It's a good one to have on your list there, Bri. Good one indeed.
It's long too. Like the whole sequence goes like 15 or 20 minutes.
I love the sound of those aliens. That's what really
that's. And I was listening to that today and thinking like, wow, was this the first? Because people are like with the soundtrack for like Inception, right? The wah wah, like, but that was the sound of the aliens. I wonder if that was one of the first times they heard that.
That really like deep, bassy, whatever that thing is.
It's almost like an electronic feedback sound, like wah.
Like dubstep.
Yeah, there you go.
A little dubsteppy.
Dubby.
Number 4.
I only like this because I know Spielberg.
What is it on Rotten Tomatoes? That's all that really matters.
That's a great question. I'll bet this is, I'm going to say 80%.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
You'll float too. You'll float too! You'll float too! You'll float too! Yeah, it's the flooded basement scene in It. I should say that most of mine are pretty recent, and I did a fair amount of digging after coming up with my list in my head, looking for like old like moonshining scenes from like early years, and I couldn't find like good basement scenes from yesteryear. Like there's a few of them that I found. One might be on your list, but for the most part, these are all within the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, most of mine are very recent too. I will say this is a great example of great scene. I had it on my short list, and then I'm like, I gotta cut fucking 7 movies from this list. So I'm glad you're talking about that. By the way, War of the Worlds 75% on Rotten Tomatoes,
and it's got a lesser rating than both Malcolm and Marie, and I think Paint Your Wagon on IMDb. So go fig.
News of the World lower than News of the World higher than War of the Worlds.
Yes, 6.8. You'll Float too scene in the movie It from 2017, not to be confused with It Chapter 2, which does not hold the gravitas or the weight or the goodness as the first one. That was a huge letdown, if you ask Brian or I.
It really was.
But
it had a couple of moments for sure, but overall, I was like, meh.
But it's the scene where the lead character Bill is he's a kid. He wakes up. It's the old tropey. Lights on in the kitchen, and then he's following, but he thinks he sees something. He's following his little dead brother, and he can't believe that he's seen his little brother.
He's haunted by the image of his
Georgie.
Younger dead brother.
He blames himself for losing Georgie down the drainage there. You all know. Most all of you have seen this movie, but then he goes down and he's standing in the corner, and Bill can't believe it. He's on the stairs in the basement, which is flooded, so there's water everywhere, obscuring your view of what's beneath. And Georgie's standing in the corner, and he's saying, "I'm sorry, I lost the ball." And he's like, "But come over here, come with me, and you can float too." And then, of course, Pennywise appears from beneath, and it's a very, very creepy, good basement watery scene. Not my only watery basement scene, I should say, Brian. Not my only. Only.
I think I know where this is going.
Basements can be flooded. There's actually 3.
Basements flood first, it turns out. We didn't even talk about basements. Did you have a basement growing up?
I never did have a basement, no.
No, me neither. As one of my characters will say in a future entry on my top 5, not a lot of people have basements in California.
I know which movie you're talking about there, bro.
So good.
Yep.
We'll get there. No, it did not have a basement. No, not a big thing in California, it turns out.
No, I don't know if it's. I would assume it's because of the old earthquakes when they first started building homes out here. They're like probably not smart to build a home on top of a cave.
I think that's well. On the one hand, I would agree with you, but there are some basements out here, which makes me think that it's not like a code thing. It's a I don't know. I think basements I should have looked this up. I thought basements were primarily to avoid like damage from like tornadoes.
Oh, so they're like shelters?
Yeah, I thought so.
I mean, it's extra space in your house. It's a place that it makes sense to do, especially with people's love of square footage and charging people when selling properties. I have to think it's about the earthquakes and whatnot. My buddy Tyler, you know him. I know him. Tyler White. He had a basement in a place that he lived in for a while. It was creeps. In Glendale, he had a basement. He used to brew beer down there. We did an after disaster down in his basement. Creeps.
Tyler's?
Yeah, Tyler.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I should also say that Mitch Tobias, who came up with this list as the decider this week, he came up with the list because he recently moved in Germany from one spot in Germany to another spot in Germany, and he has a basement in his new house, and he had never had a basement before. He was pretty excited, and there you go. Basement, because he comes from Florida. They don't have basements out there either. Maybe it's a hot thing. Maybe you only need it like to store food back in the day.
Interesting. Well, Florida's below sea level almost the entirety of it,
that
so
makes sense.
I could see that being an issue.
I lived in Marina Del Rey for a while, and there was this multi-million-dollar, teetering on billion-dollar property, condos, apartments, and I'm a bit of a misanthrope at times. You know that, Brian. You know that about me. And it delighted me to no end to hear that they fucked up when building that thing, and the underground parking was flooding, and it was like 6 feet of stagnant water, and they didn't know what to do because it was an ugly structure, and there's too much building going on. So I was quite happy about that, and it looked like a prison from the outside, but it's.
I'm glad it tickled you.
It tickled me, not as much though as the apartment due west from this prison-looking like apartment right on the marina in Marina Del Rey, which I used to live right across from. The one that was even closer to me, that was right across from the prison one. This is a true story. While I lived there, this happened. It was Halloween, right? And people had their spooky decorations up. And then it was no longer Halloween. It was like 3 weeks after Halloween. Thanksgiving had come and gone, and somebody finally made a complaint. Or no, they walked by the spooky zombie that was still on this guy's balcony, and it had an odor, and it turned out to be a dead person.
Yeah, are you serious?
Yeah, and people were
like an old person or something?
No, it was like somebody I think was shot or something, and like they died standing up, or maybe they shot themselves. But it wasn't an old person, and they were dead on the balcony for literally like 2-3 weeks before they realized. And there's people just walking by, like just thinking that it was a Halloween decoration. That happened while I lived there. Insane.
It's insane. I love your button. Insane. Speaking of storms and natural disasters and such, and water, floods, etc., not on my list. Take shelter. But you know what is on my list, Anderson? Number 4. Fight Club. Lou, Fight Club. Directed by David Fincher in 1999. This is a turning point in the movie, the basement scene. This is where Tyler Durden asserts his alpha male status. He menaces Lou, the owner of the bar where Fight Club gathers weekly to do their fighting. And Lou comes in. He's a tough guy. He's an older guy, but he's like, he's clearly he's been in a scrap or two. And Lou tries to explain to Brad Pitt and his cohorts, get the fuck out of here. And Brad Pitt's like, well, we really like the place. At which point Lou starts to beat him savagely, and Brad Pitt's like egging him on, like, oh, Lou, he's like, you understand now, fuckface? And he's like, oh, I had it and I lost it. He punches him again. It's a comical scene. This could go on the comedy list, I suppose. But Brad Pitt / Tyler Durden gets his revenge when Lou turns his back. Brad jumps to his feet and attacks Lou, and not by punching him, not by physically assaulting him. He coughs blood all over his face, and he's like, Lou, come on, Lou, let us use the place, Lou. And Lou's like, freaking out. He's like, do whatever you want, just leave me the fuck alone. And that's where Fight Club becomes more than just a club.
So it's the initial.
They have permanent. They have permanent residence in the bar basement. It becomes their base of operations. Actually, there's a lot of basement scenes in Fight Club.
Yes, I was going to ask you which one.
This is the confrontation with Lou, which is fantastic, and it's also the scene. This is a turning point in the movie because Tyler, as he's recovering from that very scene with the bloodied face and et cetera, he gives the club members the first assignment. He tells them you must pick a fight with a random stranger, and you must lose.
As you know, I've been grappling with this movie since it came out, really. Like, I watched it. I realized that I should love it. There's so much in there. The movie made for me.
It's such an Anderson movie.
So much of it I really resist and don't like. Because it's
critical of our society.
It's so bro-y. It's just such a bro movie. And I know that I'm supposed to like it.
But it's ironic because they're kind of criticizing bro culture, but they also embody it.
Yeah, kind of like Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
a little bit of American Psycho.
There are some weak spots in this movie, and this is one because I revisited this movie. I've only seen it twice.
This is one.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you this, like, just because you recreated it and repainted it, you illustrated it quite nicely there, and I remember fairly clearly the turning point where Lou turned on a dime and said, "All right, fine, whatever you want," and I remember having a hard time with that and buying that. And tell me were you cool with that? I just don't see a guy like Lou saying, "Oh, you spit in my face. Oh, you're crazy. Yeah, you're crazier than me. All right, whatever you want."
It was a tad convenient for the plot. However, two things. One, Lou was literally being attacked by a maniac who was spitting blood all over his face, and clearly
he wasn't being attacked.
I'd call that an attack.
He attacked. He
was taken to the ground, and Tyler Durden would not let go of his suit. That said, Lou was physically being restrained, attacked by Tyler Durden, not with punches, but with he was grabbing him and he was bleeding all over him, and et cetera, et cetera. He probably got a sense really quickly. I mean, I've not been in too many fights, but I played football and whatever. Like, you get an idea real quick of like, oh, this fucking dude is strong, or this guy could whip my ass, or this guy means business, or whatever.
This guy could scrap, Brian. Is the word you're looking for.
This guy can mix it up.
This dude can scrap. Hey, let me ask you this: how many fights you been in, really?
Verbal or physical? The answer to
you were in a verbal fight with me last week.
The answer to both is 0.
You've never been in a physical fight?
Not like swinging fists.
You've never swung to punch someone in defense?
I've been like in like boxing like arenas and stuff, but not.
When were you in a boxing arena?
Well, no, not like a novelty thing for my fraternity or whatever. But like, no, never struck anyone in anger. That's not my way, Anderson.
You've never struck anyone in anger.
No. I mean, aside from like, probably some, middle school something with like a friend who, whatever, but not like either a stranger or someone I wanted to injure. Yeah, that's not my way.
You know how we were talking last episode about living vicariously, and we were talking about how, a lot of guys a lot of people, a lot of human beings who don't have a wild side or don't let that wild side ever breathe a single breath. They live vicariously through characters or friends, or
That's right.
Is there the opposite of that? Because I'm trying to access it. I'm trying to want to live vicariously through you.
Well, obviously, this is why I love Fight Club.
What it must but I'm saying, is there the bizarro version of that for like a guy like me trying to live vicariously through you? Like, what it must feel like to never have swung at anyone in anger. Like, what that must feel like.
You look at me and you see like an erudite gentleman who's like living his life the right way.
Yeah.
And you're like, what must that be like?
Yeah.
I only know my own experience. I only know my own truth, Anderson. I couldn't tell you.
What would it like for me to just fantasize? Like, what is it like to go to sleep never having known what the taste of a cigarette is? What must that be like?
Oh, actually, I did smoke a cigarette once.
What?
Yeah, no.
That's how you got the cancer. You got to tell this to Dr. Black next time you see him. Like, you figured it out.
I don't know if cigarettes cause brain cancer, or excuse me,
all kinds of cancer.
I don't know if a cigarette causes a brain cancer.
I'm pretty sure it does. I learned that in health class.
I was admittedly fueled by alcohol. My decision was fueled by alcohol. That said, I was that took me to another level. Like the smoking a cigarette, I was like, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling loose right now.
Why did you never go back? It's so sweet.
And it was a bad decision.
Were you in a frat at the time?
I was, of course.
I've heard enough. All right, number. Where are we? Here.
It's probably not too late, Anderson, to get you as an alumni initiate of our.
It's probably not too late for you to take up smoking again. Number 3. Number 3 for me.
I got an idea.
Huh?
You join my fraternity.
Uh-huh.
I'll start smoking.
No. I mean, that's not a even trade-off at all, because I would die so much quicker if I had to be in a fraternity. Like, that's just not fair.
What if the initiation ritual would not go well?
Can you imagine me going through any? You know me a little bit. I know we've established that you don't know me like you should, considering how long we've been, doing this. But can you just picture it, me going through an initiation process with frat guys?
You'd probably say something nice about it because you know me.
I want to throttle you.
It's a callback.
Number 3 for me comes from a movie. So far, I'm 2017 with the Killing of a Sacred Deer. I'm 2017 with It. And I'm 2018 now with A Quiet Place, Brian.
Oh, so good.
A Quiet Place has a masterful scene in a basement. Once again, this is a flooded basement, much like my number 4 from It. Adding the water, because it is really an underground swimming pool if you add a hose down there. And they got some issues. They have some problems going on in the world that is A Quiet Place. There's creatures that could kill you if they hear you, but they can't see shit. Apparently, they're from meteors. And they, much like some of our like underground cave-dwelling spiders, they never needed to see out there in space. All they needed to do was hear real good.
True.
And they can do that.
But there's no sound in space.
Oh, that's a valid point.
No, but that's like in the emptiness of space. They're probably from other planet.
Anyways, this is Krasinski's project. As you know, there were some glaring holes and laughable issues.
There's no holes in this plot, actually.
Glaring holes and laughable issues that we had with the movie. As good as it was, Brian and I did rip on it quite a bit, especially with some of the, I guess, the set dressing. That was the basement too, right? Where like he had his little notes, like don't make sounds.
That was like a room in the basement or something, right?
Be quiet. Don't forget to be quiet.
Don't forget to find A Quiet Place. Note to self, stop talking.
Creatures can kill. Exclamation mark. All right, so yeah, this is 2018 squad. And it's when Blunt wakes up and she's got the baby is floating now. She wakes up to discover that her basement dwelling is flooded, and she discovers it with, she hears the running water, which helps her cause. You got to assume that she's pleased by that because there is a fountain features now in her basement. So that kind of muffles her own sounds as she dips her feet off of her bed into the water and realizing, oh shit, I mean, it can't be a pleasant waking up experience. And then she sees that her newborn child is floating in its little bassinet now. So she has to slowly go over to it and keep her cool as she sees one of these well-hearing creatures. It's one of the first times
they hear well.
They hear very well. I think it's one of the first times that we actually kind of get a decent look at it, even though when it's coming right up to her for the strike, it is obscured. There's obstruction with the water flow right in between the two of them. If you recall, I'm assuming you watched this scene fairly recently, Brian. The set design is...
I did.
Great.
This is before. Excuse me. This is after the nail on the stairs.
The nail scene, yes. So she's already had some bad times with her feet, soaking them in cold. You got to imagine that water is very cold too. The nail scene is so. It's just a really well constructed movie with a couple big issues that Brian and I like to point out. But watching this scene this week, it makes me that more excited about A Quieter Place, right? We're all ready for A Quieter Place already. We've been quiet, we've been waiting.
I saw a trailer in the theater a year ago.
We all did, Brian. We all did.
My last movie.
The car with the reverse, right? Shit's going down on the city streets out there. Quiet Place 2. I still do feel like it's a missed opportunity not to have called it A Quieter Place, but A Quiet Place 2 is something we'll all get to hopefully enjoy once. I don't even know what the latest is on that release. You know what? I'm going to look that up right now for you, me, everyone else, and why don't you move on?
Look it up.
Quiet Place Part 2, Emily Blunt.
Look it up.
Reprising her role, John Krasinski behind the wheel again, as we all know, and release date is September 17th of this year.
Of 2021?
Well, no, Brian. Yes, of course. Why are you surprised? September 17th, 2022? Where were you going at there? Because you're disappointed that it was 2021.
Well, because it seems like so far in the future. It's like, shouldn't this be like a July thing? But like, I don't know.
Oh, I see. Well, I mean, either way, September 17th is either going to be 2021 or 2022, or worse yet, 2020, and we all just missed it.
I guess I know what we're doing for my birthday.
But yeah, you're right. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. What am I talking about? Of course I'm not surprised. They're waiting for COVID to go away, and September 17th, they feel like it's a pretty decent bet, I guess.
I wonder if that'll change. We'll find out.
What's your thought on people going back? I know that it's not going to be like a dam breaks and everyone's just back. But I do think like 90% of people are going to be comfortable with going back to like comedy clubs and movie theaters. I mean, I know that they're out there dining because like the first weekend that the restaurants were allowed to start serving people in parking lots again, it was raining out here and they were chock full of people sitting under like tents. It looked so sad. But they just could not wait to get out there and get served again.
Yeah, it feels like people are itching to do the things they were doing, the restaurants and movies and comedy clubs, et cetera, et cetera. Personally, I'm obviously, very anxious to get the vaccine. That'll give me a nice little cloak of, not immunity, but certainly inoculation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that I assume people are in my boat with the vaccine. They're like, yeah, when I get vaccinated,
But what's your thought
shots
on movies? I guess comedy clubs to a lesser extent, but like that kind of thing where you can kind of scratch that itch at home, and a lot of people would prefer paying $20 to watch News of the World.
That's my fear is that people, are going to be so used to now like having movies in their home that they're going to forget about the majesty of going to the movies, which really sucks. Obviously, you and I are pretty big proponents of going to movie theaters and enjoying the big screen. I think it'll be a bit of a self-selecting sample. Like people who really want to go will go. Other people, the more casual, person will be like, we'll wait for it to come on Netflix or whatever the version is.
Yeah, it is interesting. Because
hopefully there's good enough movies that'll draw people back in. Like,
if I had to, if I'm reading the tea leaves here, I'm thinking that the kids movies, like the family type movies that are always big draws, they make a ton of money, right? And Trolls was the first one to do this successfully. I think those are going to financially make more sense for a family of 4 or 5 to get it in the house and just have the kids watch it for $20 or whatever. And those are going to thrive on video on demand and probably hurt at the theaters because it's much more convenient to just watch it with your kids in the house and then you can do something else, right? And it's going to be a lot cheaper too. But I think for like the bigger releases and like the Tenets of the world and something like A Quiet Place Part 2, I do think that they're going to do pretty well once the theaters are back open and allowed to have, at least, majority capacity. I think that like R-rated type movies are going to be okay. I'm really, really hoping that is the case.
I agree 100% with you about hoping. I assume, not knowing the intricacies of, studio finances, but I assume that it's more lucrative for these studios to have their big movies in theaters. So unless,
it's not though. I was reading, it's shocking, but the theaters, the deal's always been, they keep 50%. And the studios get a whole lot more with the deals they're making with the video on demand.
Interesting.
The percentage is much higher, which I know it's not higher for me with Amazon. We get 50%, which is then split by 50% by my distributor, which is then split by 50% by my producer. So by the time I see anything,
you're
from
making
Amazon,
12.5%.
No, less than that even because there's another producer. Yeah, so I'm not making much unless you want to buy a DVD straight Blu-ray straight from me. Then it's great because I have rights to that, but I don't really push that. I have not pushed the Blu-rays, which I still have a bunch of, but once the pandemic hit, I wasn't feeling comfortable trying to sling my Blu-ray. Anyways, yeah, it's interesting. We will see. I think that the studios need to rebroker a new deal. And what's kind of funny is this part of town that I live in, they've been building a new AMC since about 3 months before the pandemic. And I watch those cranes working ever so slowly, but I'm like, they're building a structure right there that might not have any purpose.
It might not ever make a dime.
And there's my main theater right up the street is an AMC 16, right, which is attached to a mall that is now defunct. Like it's literally just they shut the doors. You can't even get into this mall anymore. It's just a dead mall. Like there's nothing going on in there except for a Ruth's Chris, which I know you would turn your nose up at, and
it's okay.
And an AMC 16. And AMC realized that they needed a new home before the pandemic, so they can't be attached to this dead mall, right? So they're building a new one at the Live Mall. But the AMC 16 is going to close, and the new one that they were building before the pandemic, it's an AMC 8, I think, or maybe an AMC 10. They've cut the number of theaters. So that should tell you right there, the direction we're going. I think I already reported on that a while ago, but
interesting.
It
is. As a tangential side note, I don't know if you remember, but by my house, Google's building this massive.
Yeah.
They took over the West Side Pavilion Mall and they're turning into massive offices. And just at the point where like no one's going back into offices anymore. I'm sure at some point that will, be what it's supposed to be. But boy, talk about shitty timing.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll ever be like all Google offices. Especially Google with all of their technology. People don't need to be, polluting the air when they can do it from home.
It's a massive investment. It's a fucking mall. They turn into offices.
Yeah, West Side Pavilion, for those of you who don't know, is a big, not just a mall. It's a giant mall. And it wasn't going to be all Google space, right? I'm sure they'd lease out some of the offices.
They're going to do some like multi-use stuff on the bottom floor, some retail and Starbucks and shit, whatever. Yeah, my guess. Number 3 food. For me, that was a nice little break.
Well, we got to take a break after your 3, so let's go. Let's do this.
This is my clip, Anderson. This is my clip. So get that ready. Number
ready.
3 for me is, I guess you would call it a basement scene because it's, I guess technically it's a shed and technically it's a bunker, a hidden bunker, which counts as a basement in my world. But Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse from 2018, directed by Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman, produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, among others. This is the part of the movie where Miles Morales, alternate universe Peter Parker, and Gwen Stacy, they all track down Aunt May, and they travel down to her secret basement, which is really a bunker, and where they find there are actually several other versions of spider people in their universe, thanks to it's kind of a MacGuffin, but it's a quantum physics collider that opens up another portal to other universes, etc., etc. And this is where they are all the other spider people who are very accomplished and very adept fighters. They are explaining to Miles, who is just a boy, he's just literally a school kid. He's a high school age kid who has recently been bitten by a radioactive spider, that he needs to step up his game and become a real Spider-Man.
Through the air when you smell a delicious pie.
What?
Dude, can you float through the air when you smell a delicious pie? I love Peter Porker.
He's pretty good. He's pretty random. It turns out he's based on something. I was very smitten with him when I thought he was just pulled out of the fucking blue, but I guess Gio let me know that all of these characters are based on actual previous published issues of Spider things.
I kind of vaguely recall some animated property or cartoon or Saturday morning something with Peter Porker.
Liar.
Back in the day. I don't know why I remember that, but yeah, funny scene. I'm sure you're on the same page as me, but Nick Cage as noir Spider-Man is fantastic.
Pretty good. Love the Nick Cage, and he continues to outdo himself. Like he's not going away. He's not going away.
He's got talent, so you can only keep a good man down for so long.
He's got debt as well, so he's going to be around for a while. That's also true.
So he'll be working.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Taking a quick break here. Bye-bye.
All right, coming up next, we'll conclude our list of basement scenes after this.
Just go!
Oh, good news, Anderson. Our old favorite is back. Feels is back to sponsor this show with their premium CBD delivered directly to your doorstep.
That's right. Feels is a product that both Brian and I use. Brian's actually, it's one of the first things that you take when you're going on a trip, right? Like if you're going out of town, like it's one of the first things that you pack.
Anderson, this is not a joke and not an exaggeration. I am literally going out of town this weekend in 2 days.
Seems illegal.
No, that's right. Well, we're renting a Airbnb or whatever that no one is in aside from us, and we'll be in the remote mountains of California, and the CBD is already on the packing list. That is no joke.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because you use it to help you sleep. I use it to help my angstiness and my anxiousness, and it works on both counts. It also helps me sleep when necessary. And there's a lot of CBD out there. It's somewhat of a newer thing, but if you've been thinking about, dipping your toe or giving it a shot, this is a great offer that they have through this program. So you support the program, and you also give yourself an idea of what CBD is all about. You get 50% off, right, Brian? It's 50% off if you become a member.
Yeah, you get your first 50% off your first order.
So use promo code TFV. Where do you go to do this?
You become a member today by going to feals.com. That's FEALS.com/TFV. You'll get 50% off your first order with free shipping, by the way. That's FEALS.com/TFV. That's the name of our show. To become a member, get 50% automatically taken off that first order with free shipping. Feals.com/TFV. Welcome back. This is the part where we conclude our list of top 5 basement scenes. Anderson, what's your number 2, buddy?
My number 2. Trois is 3, huh? My number 2. This is a very creepy scene. And it's not even so much what happens in the scene. It's what's revealed. And it's a movie called The Road from 2009. Going back a little bit now.
This is not a fun movie.
Not a fun movie. It's a post-apocalyptic dystopian future where bad things are occurring. There's it's what we thought was going to happen. We thought toilet paper was the first sign of things to come, but luckily it kind of ended with the toilet paper. But this is a world where the shelves are empty, and they've been empty for a while, and Viggo Mortensen is faced with protecting himself as well as his loved one from a very, very cruel world. And we're all 3 to 5 days away from a reality like this, I'm afraid. It's just human nature. Everyone's
look
out
at the
for themselves.
look at the pandemic earlier, a year ago, basically. There was it all kind of happened quick. Remember how quick the run was on food and toilet paper and et cetera, et cetera?
I feel like I led with that.
I'm trying to reinforce your point.
So what goes on? What goes on with you, Brad? I wonder. Do you just shut down? Do you tune out?
Do you remember? Just answer the question.
I do remember. Yes, I was saying it started and stopped with toilet paper. Luckily, thankfully, but I alluded to it earlier in this episode that cellars may or may not be used for food storage, and turns out that in the road they are used for livestock. However, all the livestock that you and I
is livestock.
All this livestock that you and I think of as livestock, cows, horns, chickens, cows with horns and chickens, bulls, I should say, pigs, lambs. Oh, why do you got to eat the little lambs? Lay off the lambs in the veal, everybody. All right.
Eat a duck, for God's
sake. I'm down to red meat twice a month. If that, I try and keep it with the bivalves, with the...
Anderson.
Yeah.
You and I are going opposite directions because ever since I finished the medication, I have probably had 45 steaks in 50 days. Or red meat, like hamburger steak.
Well, you're like keto boy, right? Like
yeah, but I also need to put on weight.
Oh, you got to put on the weight. Yeah, but keto keeps the weight off if you're like eating the.
True, but my body's returning to sort of stasis. You know what I mean? Like
okay,
I was
good.
Under by a certain,
You were very under, yeah. Yes, you were very, very under. Anyway, livestock is being held. These are live creatures. I guess you could call them because that's kind of what they look like, but they're
live food source.
They have the same DNA as you and I, similar DNA, I should say. We could mate with these. Actually, no, I don't think they're able to mate. They're very sickly-looking humans, and they're being kept as food. And the discovery of that, the reveal of that, is jarring. John Hillcoat directs a mean, unforgiving movie, and he does so here with The Road. And
livestock.
It's uncomfortable. It's jarring. It's unnerving, and it's my number 2. For basement scenes, because I remember seeing it's like the movie was dark. There was bad shit happening, but when he sees the scurrying about of It was reminiscent of Bone Tomahawk, Brian, except unfortunately that livestock was not kept in a basement. But that was actually more horrific because they were taking limbs from those from that livestock and then sewing up the limbs so that they would continue to live. Ugh, Bone Tomahawk. Maybe one of the darkest funny movies I've ever seen. It is hilarious.
I did not enjoy this scene. I did not enjoy this movie.
Bone Tomahawk's very funny, though. Yeah,
I'm talking about the road. I'm talking about I'm watching the scene right now on mute.
I'm thinking about David Arquette saying, "Why they always got to piss themselves?" He's mad at his victims.
He's clearly dejected.
He's slitting their throats and so he can steal from them. Like they're still sleeping. It's supposed to be early morning, and he slits their throats with Sid. Right, Sid. I think his co-star died in that. Sid had a cult following. Anyways. And he gets really mad. He turns to his partner and he says, "Why are they always going to piss themselves when I kill them?" Like, he's mad. Like, how dare they?
Yeah, he's put out.
All right, sorry for that tangent.
Number 2 for me, Anderson takes place in a basement.
That's good because that's the criteria here. It's the only criteria.
It's a prerequisite, really. Number 2, of course, I'm going back to a classic, 1960s Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Anderson, I don't want to give too much away for this 60-year-old film. I'll simply say, what else can be said about Psycho that hasn't already been said? It might be the most, aside from... I mean, what do you think is more analyzed, Psycho or Citizen Kane? Probably Citizen Kane, but I don't think Psycho's too far behind.
I think you're right. I think that's probably a pretty good call there. I would imagine both. Maybe Psycho more just because more people that analyze it are alive. I think that some of the people that were really big on analyzing the old Citizen Kane are no longer with us. All that being said, I have never wanted to watch Citizen Kane more than I have over the last 2-3 weeks. Because
you're going to watch it for an 11th time?
Because of Mank and RKO 281. It made me appreciate things that I may have missed the first 10 times.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The scene from Psycho, I'm not going to go over the details. Everyone knows Psycho. It's been analyzed to death. But I will repeat something that I found interesting that I did not know. Speaking of overanalyzing, documentarian Slavoj Žižek, he notes that Norman Bates' mansion, Anderson, has 3 floors, paralleling the 3 levels of the human mind that are postulated by Freudian psychoanalysis. The basement would be Bates' id, the ego, the superego, and the id. Zizek interprets Bates moving his mother from top floor to basement as a symbol for the deep connection that psychoanalysis posits between superego and id. Now, again, I doubt Hitchcock was really thinking about that, but hey, you never know.
Yeah, I remember hearing this or reading this somewhere that as a writer or filmmaker, you should never worry about theory in your film because the critics will find it for you. You don't have to put it. You don't have to put it in there. And I think that's the case. When you analyze something over and again and again and again, you're gonna find stuff that's unintentional, not intentional.
Like, do you think Hitchcock was like, oh yeah, that's him connecting the superego to his id? That feels.
It could. He could. I mean, he was a genius, and there was a lot going on there.
He was pretty heady, but that feels a little bit of a stretch.
I think if you were to do some like real forensic research here, trying to figure out if he did or did not plant that intentionally, you look at his own ego and ask yourself, was his ego? Wouldn't he have needed to point it out a little bit? Wouldn't he have needed to lead the horse to water to point out how clever he was in doing so? You know what I mean? I think that from what I know of Alfred Hitchcock, I think that he would have made sure that we saw that he put that in there.
Although I think Psycho was based on a book, so perhaps it's in there. Yeah, novel the same name from 1959. Yeah,
Sicko. I still got to see that. I got to see that Peeping Tom.
Psychophant.
Peeping Tom, which is supposed to be English version of Psycho, which came out a few years later. Much controversy. Peeping Tom, Brian. Peeping Tom. All right. Moving on to we have my number 1.
Number 1, please.
Mm-hmm. All right. Might be considered a little basic. In talking to Mitch this morning, I think that he omitted it from his list because it was too basic. However, there are multiple basement scenes to choose from. The Silence of the Lambs And the one that I'm going with is my favorite scene that's ever taken place in a basement, and I can't be alone in this. And that is the Q Lazarus dance sequence in The Silence of the Lambs. And I could go at the end with the night vision.
Goodbye Horses.
But Goodbye Horses. It's a catchy, somewhat
good song.
It's somewhat melancholy, but I think I'm putting that on it because
It's a little emo. It's a little like alternative. The movie's made in '91.
Q Lazarus. I don't know much about Q Lazarus other than the song and how much I like it, but I like her vocals. I like her vocals quite a bit. She actually covered a Talking Heads song for another movie later after this one. Obviously, what was that? What was it? I'm gonna play a little Q Lazarus right now.
Let's hear some Goodbye Horses.
I'd fuck me.
Now, question for you. Does this take place in a like subterranean basement, or are they just in a different part of his house?
I thought it was by the well, no?
The well for sure is there, but I don't know if they're. I don't know. I don't know for a fact either way. I'm only asking.
But yeah, it was the same room where the well is, where the dancing took place.
Right.
Yeah, it's underneath his house. It's a house in Pittsburgh, and it's suburb of Pittsburgh, and it was definitely in a subterranean spot of the house. Right. And then he made it even more subterranean with the old well there. If we ever did top 5 wells, this would probably be my number one as well. I don't know if we'll ever do top 5 wells. Oh, it got me thinking though. I was thinking about wells in general while spending. I spent a little too much time in basements, and my headspace has been in basements since last week, Brian. I think you're probably the same.
Wells.
Got me thinking about wells. It got me thinking about well drinks, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to bring this up and ask Brian because I bet he'll have an answer.
I know the answer.
Is it because it's well enough drinks? Like I'm talking about the cheap drinks at bars, wells, or is it because they actually used to get the drinks from a well, or is it something else?
It's going to be a very boring, satisfying answer.
Is it a name or something? A guy's name?
No. Are you familiar how the bartender faces you, and behind him is all of the all
liquor
the
well?
It's all, behind him is the big wall of liquor. Typically,
right.
Not every bar is the same, of course, but typically it's the big wall.
Top
of
shelf,
liquor.
most expensive.
That's what you call liquor. If you call your liquor, you're like, I'd like a whiskey and I'd like Jack Daniels, or I'd like a whiskey, I'd like Jim Beam, or it's a bourbon, but whatever. The well is that little tray in front of his knees where they keep the the bottles that have little pour spouts on them with the little toppers.
What?
No. The bottles in front of him that have the pour spouts on them.
The bottles in front of him that have pour spots.
Pour spouts.
Pour spouts. Yeah.
The silver stainless steel pour spouts. That little tray where those liquors are held is called the well, and that is where you put your average cheap liquor. If someone just calls for a whiskey soda and they don't call their liquor, i.e. Jack Daniels or whatever, or they just maybe a martini. This is a bad example. A vodka soda. They don't call their vodka. It comes from the well, which is the little tray right in front of their knees.
All right.
Or hips or whatever, however it's set up. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Is that a satisfying answer?
Yeah, I could hear the glee in your voice, dude. That is your favorite thing to do, is to have an answer to something, and then you're like, I not only do I have the answer, I have it well versed. Here we go.
Well versed.
Yeah. I still don't get it's a place where you keep the cheap liquor. That tray.
The tray is called the well.
They don't even have the tray in most of the bars that I look at, or the whole bar is like a tray, and it's nothing but well, because I like my hole in the wall. Bars.
Well, because bars have evolved, and so sometimes the cheap liquor is behind the bartender. Sometimes the cheap liquor is like down in a cabinet. Sometimes there's not always the well anymore, but that's where it came from.
Q Lazarus also had a song and featured in the movie Philadelphia, which I did not quite enjoy, but she did a cover of that Talking Heads song Heaven. And so you can hear her vocal stylings in that movie Philadelphia as well. So Q Lazarus is horses is my.
Did you ever just go with liquor, or is that your thing, or did you call your own liquor?
It depends where I was. Usually I would ask for a specific type of liquor because I only like certain types of whiskey and whatnot. Brian,
that's probably smart.
Yeah.
Number one for me. Your number one was Silence of the Lambs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number one for me is the scene I alluded to earlier. Not a lot of people have basements in California. I do. Zodiac, 2007. I imagine this will be high on the listeners' list. Zodiac, my second David Fincher movie on this list. Jake Gyllenhaal. So he, of course, plays. And by the way, let me say this. Shamefully, and yes, I am admitting shame, Anderson, that I feel shame over this. This was my number one years ago. This was probably in the Orange Couch days or close to it. My number one good scenes from bad movies. Zodiac is not a bad movie. The scene is fantastic, the basement scene, but it is not a bad movie. It's a good movie. Maybe I was a tad disappointed.
It's a fine movie.
It's a fine movie.
You don't want to spend 2 hours and 44 minutes of your life or whatever reading a book that just doesn't end. Or watching a movie that just doesn't end. It just doesn't end.
I think I had such high expectations. Did you and I see this together?
No, we saw it like the same week, though.
Are you sure? Who did I see this with? Are you sure I didn't see it with you?
I think we've seen one movie together.
No, we for sure saw Inglourious Bastards, right?
No.
What?
I don't recall seeing it with you. I do this to the wife all the time, though. She gets infuriated. She's I'll ask her, like, did you see that? Together. And she'll be like, I saw it with you. I don't remember who I see the movie with, I guess.
I think you and I saw Zodiac together, but either way, whether we did or did not. I saw in the theater. I was slightly disappointed, maybe by the ending, maybe just it wasn't what I was expecting. It is a good movie, there's no doubt, and the scene is quite fantastic. Jake Gyllenhaal plays a San Francisco Chronicle cartoonist who becomes obsessed with the Zodiac killer, and he goes to this weird old man's basement as he researches the case. Remember, the guy's got he's got film or some record of showing a film or something, and he's trying to connect all the dots, and he knows that at one point the Zodiac killer alluded to having a basement in his house. And
right.
The old man's like, here, just come into my basement with me.
No,
the old guy's super creepy.
He's upstairs. Grace, what's his name?
I think so. I didn't write it down.
Gyllenhaal is upstairs, and he goes, he's like all excited. He's like, I think that I know who it is, because this is his the closest we've seen his handwriting so far. So we think that it's him. And the guy's like, no, that's not his handwriting. That's my handwriting. And then Jake starts to put it together right there, and he's like, things are bad. And then he's like, well, why don't we go down into my basement? Why he wouldn't just say, nah, it's all right, maybe next time.
Yeah,
he's like, I'll follow you down there. Classic, dumb white guy in a horror movie move, right? Same with Bill in It. You don't fall. I don't care if it's your lost little dead brother. You don't go down in that basement.
You wait till morning time. You wait till daddy wakes up.
Yeah. You call the authorities.
Grace Smith is the answer. Robert Grace Smith. So he goes down to the basement. Of course, he hits him with that line. He's like, not a lot of people have basements in California. Pause. I do. Oh, it's so good.
But it's a great scene. It is. But
he goes down and he's hearing creaking on the stairs above or on the floor above. He's like, are you sure we're alone? And the guy want to answer him. He's like, are you sure there's no one else here?
What were they alluding to there? I still don't get it.
I think they were just trying to make it creepy at that point. Because I don't think they were trying to make it as though there was some. I mean, they're trying
to Zodiac killer.
They're trying to cast doubt, of course, in the list or in the viewer's mind. But I don't think. But plot wise,
much like that movie, that scene, as great as it is, it doesn't have a payoff. There's no payoff. He runs away. The payoff
is that you're freaked out and he runs out of the house and gets in his car.
No payoff, and it's so built up, and it's just. That, like the movie itself, it's so built up. We're so invested, and we knew that going in, because if you know anything about serial killers in Southern California, especially, they never found this dude.
Yep.
So I don't know why we all put on our socks with bells to run to see this movie.
Socks with bells.
I don't understand why I was jingling all the way there. I was so excited, and I left going, yeah, I guess I knew that we didn't know.
It just comes up to the border of overdoing it, because there's the creaking floorboards, there's the rain, the tea kettle starts whistling right at that exact moment, of course. There's a train in the background. It's just almost too much.
Only one scene that I revisited this last week in preparation for this episode that I think maybe hit more tropes. And it didn't make my list, came close, but I'll talk about it in my also rans. But before that, let's move on to Mitch's list. One of these days, we're going to get this right too, Brian, where we will go to Mitch's list as we go to ours. He's the third seat here. That's the way we're supposed to do it. But
no, we're going to hear the listener or the assigner list.
Mitch, yes, that's. Oh my God.
Oh
Brian.
no, because we have Mitch
Fucking
Burns. Because we have
handball
because we have Mitch
against
Burns.
curtains.
Because we have Mitch Burns.
Mitch Burns does the fanfliction, which
I know,
happens
but
on.
I'm saying you said Mitch, and I'm like, we already did Mitch. Anyway, you understand my confusion.
Okay, Mitch's list, Mitch Tobias's list, the Deciders list. Mitch Tobias, who came up with top 5 basements because he now owns a house in Germany. He may or may not own. Lives in a house in Germany with a basement. First time he's ever had one, so it occurred to him that would be a good list. And here's his list.
What
and
up,
we
Mitch?
We should be shuffling the Deciders picks in along with ours, as though Mitch has third seat here. All right,
we
Mitch
get to
Tobias is.
we get to shine a light on his list.
That's right. Mitch now has the floor. Mitch Tobias's list goes a little something like this. Starts with number 5, and that's Chunk's confession with a blender in the Goonies. 1985's The Goonies. That takes place down there in the. Hey, we can do top 5 treehouse scenes. Ooh.
I guess technically, I don't really think about that.
Brian. Number 4 is Parasite's climax. You know, their entire house, though, like where they actually live
But
with
wait,
the flooding.
the climax doesn't take place in the basement, though, does it?
I don't want to talk about it too much with the old, but yes, something springs forth from the basement, and it is a basement scene, technically.
All right.
But their house, the family's house, is subterranean. Like their actual dwelling is a basement. It's like below the city streets. And remember, every time it rains, it gets flooded.
Oh God, I forgot about the house. I remember being very architecturally unique.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about the rich people's house that they end
you're
up working
talking
at.
about.
I'm talking about the actual.
Yeah. Where
family's
the poor
house.
people live, and yes, it's constantly flooding, and they live like
That's almost
like a New York City like subway apartment or a subway,
Right.
Subterranean apartment, basement apartment.
Subterranean apartment. It's supposed to, it's right there. Like they live beneath everybody else. Number 3 from Mitch Tobias. That's the arm biting scene in The Killing of a Sacred Deer, stolen by
Stolen
me.
from you.
Number 2 is Zodiac.
Yes.
And finally, number 1 from Mitch Tobias is the whiskey drinking scene in Inglourious Bastards.
That's a great
It
scene.
is a fantastic scene. I loved seeing that movie without you. It was good.
I don't remember that.
Moving on to the listener list. Number 5, you guys came up with Home Alone. What?
What's
that? Home Alone.
You assholes.
Oh, Jonathan Oxhorn, who did our listener art this week. Yet again, he strikes yet again. He's been killing it lately. He also did a deep fake. I don't know. Let me know if you'd like me to see that. I can send it your way. He did a deep fake of you and I of Home Alone. So you are Pesci and I am Stern.
I like it.
It's creepy.
Is that
Tell you
going to be
much.
is that listener art for next week?
No, he did a deep fake where it's actually like our faces are on it, but it's video. It's
Oh,
like movie picture.
I thought you meant like an image.
All right, so moving on for the listeners. Sorry, Home Alone jarred my memory there. Number 5 is Home Alone. Number 4, Silence of the Lambs. Number 3, Parasite. Number 2, Pulp Fiction, which works out perfectly because of this week's listener art, which I absolutely love. We'll get to that in a second. And number 1 from the listeners, thank you so much to Jordan Wolf, who compiles this list every single week. If you would like to be a part of the list, I post every single Monday morning what our topic's going to be, and you can vote as long as you get your vote in by Tuesday. Midday, so you have about a little over 24 hours to get your vote in. But on our Facebook, Twitter, or our Instagram, which is at Anderson and Brian. Number 1 for the listeners with 15.1% of the overall and nearly 30% of the top 5, and that is Zodiac. Which is shocking. It's surprising to me that it's number 1 on your list, number 1 on the listeners' list, number 2 on Mitch's list.
It's great. It's a great scene.
It's a very good scene. It is. It's a very good scene, but it could have been a great scene if there was a payoff. I really do think
Maybe they were foreshadowing the end of the movie.
I guess you got to think that Fincher was suggesting that he was the Zodiac killer and that he didn't work alone. I think that's what he must have been going for, right?
Or, like I said, it's just the theme of the movie, which is kind of like No Country for Old Men. Like, sometimes, good or doesn't win, and sometimes evil gets away with it.
Frustrating is the word.
Yes,
the word
extremely.
is frustrating.
Anderson, I propose we do not do an also ran because I would like to save some of these for list number 2.
All right, I'm okay with that. Let's do this. Let's do gambling. Let's do gambling. I need to. Okay, so last week, Brian and I gambled on Judas and the Black Messiah, which I got to see.
Doesn't that not come out till this week?
I think it's this week. Yeah. I got to see it. I said 93%. Brian said 88%, whereas the actual, hold on, wait for it, results for gambling for last week, the actual score is 98%, making me the winner, which makes all of us the winner because I'm going to assign Brian a movie that I think we'll all enjoy.
Please make it a music documentary.
You wish.
I do.
You wish.
I do.
You do wish, and you don't. Your wish will not be granted, sir.
Oh.
Psycho Gorman will be enjoyed by you. Will be enjoyed by me.
Psycho Gorman?
Don't watch any trailer or anything. Just go in and enjoy a little Psycho.
Is it spelled like Psycho?
It is, and then Gorman because that's his name, Psycho Gorman.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Psycho Gorman. All
yeah.
right.
I have a link. I'll get you a link.
Not interested.
We're all going to enjoy some Psycho Gorman and talk about it next week. I'm so excited that I won this week. All right.
PG, Psycho Gorman. All right. I'm in.
Yeah, PG, but it's an R-rated movie. Movies to gamble on for this coming week, Brian.
Please.
We got The Dig, which we heard made Diana Vandekamp cry. We have Rock Camp the movie. This is still not working out well. And Malcolm and Marie, which we can't. You want to do The Dig?
Sure. Is that all we got?
I mean, we got 3 movies that Gio set us up with.
No,
and Malcolm and Marie, we already discussed what the Rotten Tomatoes is. Rock Camp the movie, neither one of us are sure of what that is.
I don't. I couldn't tell you. Did Gio send along? I suppose I could look at the email. Did he?
Yeah, I mean, you get the same email I do.
Okay.
I don't understand what this movie is because I research. It's a music documentary. I research every single movie that's got a release coming, and this one is brand spanking new to me, and that upsets me greatly because I do diligent research on every single movie that's getting a proper release, whether it be VOD, SOD, TVOD, or in the old theatrical release.
Movies for gambling. Rock Camp.
I don't understand why. Let me see here. And it says January 15th, like it came out a month ago or something. This movie's too small to talk about. What are we doing? This is the most it's ever been talked about.
This is true.
8 people have rated it on IMDb, though. But yeah, this is probably a movie that you'll love that I'll never see unless I'm forced.
Okay, The Dig. All right, The Dig. Are you ready?
Yeah. 1, 2, 86.
90. Oh, 90.
Oh, no. Pretty close. All right. Let's see. You and I can both open this email. I know this isn't perfect, guys. This is the best we got, and Gio does really good work making this all work out for us. It's just a little different. The dig.
88.
It's right in the middle, right?
Right in the middle.
What'd you say?
I said 90.
And I said 86, right?
So that is directly in the middle, 88.
Interesting. What if it stays there? It's just a push?
It's got 125 reviews, which is a lot. I don't know how much it's going to move. But, The Dig. I guess what happens if we tie?
I just asked that. It's doing shows with you, 2 of them a week is maddening. Bro.
I'm echoing your question.
Literally, you are.
I'm
and
echoing.
it's maddening.
What do we do? What do we do in case of a tie?
What'd you say? What was yours? 90? 92?
90.
90. Well, you didn't say 90. Oh, I said 86. Yeah, you did. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm doing worse than you now with the.
You really are. You're
this
changing
is
my
worse
score.
than you're echoing.
Changing my score.
What else we got to do here? I don't know if we tie. How about we do nothing? How about that? How about we just give each other a attaboy and we don't have to force each other.
I got an idea in the case of a tie. We used to give the option to Logan, but how about we let Gio assign us a movie?
Are you crazy?
He's done a lot for this show.
He does do a lot for this show, but I don't want to watch some a Marvel movie from 1982 or something. This
is the original Fantastic Four, the one that never got released.
Yeah, I'm down with that. That's fine if it continues to be. If it continues to be a tie, it's the least we do for Gio. Speaking of which, We have a new assigner up, and we're going to be watching
I'm
a
looking at
little
the
movie.
listener art.
Okay, we'll get there in a second. I want to let you know that Tam Smith is up. Tam Smith, who's one of my favorite people in the world, favorite listeners and people. I just love her. She's great. And she has assigned us Unhinged. So we will be watching Russell Crowe's Unhinged.
No.
Yes.
Really?
Oh,
She paid
wait till
money.
you
She
see what
paid
Will
money.
McPherson has us watching.
She paid money for that?
What's that?
She paid money for that?
I'm telling you, people want us to hear us talk about movies that we normally wouldn't see.
All right. Yeah, I'm all for Unhinged. Wait, I gotta watch Unhinged and Psycho Gorman next week?
That's what you have to do for this program. That's right. And then, hey, Brian, you got an open spot to watch one of your music
motherfuckers,
docs.
This is award season. Can we make room for some Oscar movies that are going to be happening?
Wait till you hear what we got to watch next week for Will.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, it's right.
First of all, I think this listener art is very accurate. I've actually experienced this.
Yeah, so why don't you explain the listener art without explaining it? It's one of my favorites. I laughed and stared at this for a good 3 full minutes, and then I just
Time travel question mark?
and then I Jillian asked what I was laughing so hard about, so I showed her and I walked her through the whole thing, and she even found it somewhat amusing. So this is
YOLO, I thought.
You only live once. I thought it's so good. This is harkening back to Brian having Pulp Fiction on his top 5 most confusing movies. I love it so much. I love it so much.
It's legitimately hilarious. Like, why? When the best part? Okay, I don't know where to start with this. So it's a takeoff on the meme, which I love, by the way, from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Charlie's he's stuck in the mail room and trying to figure out what's what with an elaborate series of ropes and strings and lines and things on his wall. That's funny. But then it's me over Charlie's face and a bunch of images of Pulp Fiction.
Don't give them all away, but it's very good. Go over to andersonandbrian.com and it'll be there in living color.
The best part is it's all about my confusion over John Travolta living or dying or being alive at different parts of the movie. And there's one just random shot of Butch and Marcella, and it just says, what?
YOLO, I thought, is I think maybe my favorite.
As though I'm confused by every aspect of the movie.
But he died! All right, let's go. Let's get out of here. Music is ending.
So good. Wait, who did this? I need to give proper credit.
Jonathan
That's goddamn
Oxhorn.
hilarious. Jonathan Oxhorn, of course.
One of the
our
associate
favorites.
producers on Groupers as well. Kid just keeps on giving.
One of the best.
Even though he was heard by somebody I know after the screening of it in Seattle, he was heard saying, you could have lost 10 minutes about Groupers, which I'll never forget, John.
Well, he's a producer.
I'll never
so,
forget
you
that.
know. Thanks, Jonathan.
You tell me what 10 minutes. I'd love to cut 10 minutes of that movie. You show me where.
Just randomly, any 10 probably would have worked.
That's nice.
Thanks, Jonathan. Excellent art as always. Guys, check it out, andersonandbrian.com. Have a good laugh over that one. Hopefully we'll post that on our social media as well, so everyone who follows us on Facebook, at The Film Vault, Twitter, at The Film Vault, Instagram, at Anderson and Brian, can see the excellent listener art this week. Check us out over there, The Film Vault, on Patreon. We got a lot of good stuff. Didn't we just do a spoiler last week? What do we do a spoiler on? Spoiler on In and of Itself.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have that on there. That's in the notes.
Good stuff. I was looking for it. Good stuff. So check that out. Feature artist Take Today. Thanks, guys, for providing the sounds of this episode. And lots of people to thank. Giovanni, of course, Jordan Wolf, Mitch Burns, Mike Cole, and Mitch Tobias for an excellent topic. Great job, Mitch. This is the kind of juicy, plentiful topic we hope for. Thought-provoking, interesting. One we probably should have done years ago, honestly, but here we are. So thanks, Mitch. And yeah, that's all, you guys. Check us out on the social medias I mentioned. AndersonandBrian.com is where the Amazon banner exists. And until next time.
We do it for Van Gogh!